What's going on, YouTube? Matthew back here with you today. I had one card come in today. That was a recent pickup off of eBay. Actually, I purchased this about 5 weeks ago, and I'm glad it came today because I'd forgot about it. Uh, Big part of that is I'm bad to not leave feedback except for when I get an item in the mail. And usually, like if I purchased a card and it was say a PSA graded card, it came in the mail. As soon as I get it, then I just get on my phone, open the eBay app, scroll through my purchases real quick, find it, and leave feedback. Um, but the thing about the mobile app, it's not like desktop. On desktop, when you log into your account, you're going to see, or laptop, you're going to see though on a computer that you need to leave feedback, and it'll tell you how many items. Well, I mean, yeah, you can find that out if you on the mobile app, but it's not as plain in plain sight like it is on desktop. And so, because of that, I had forgot all about this card, and it showed up today. It was already past the 30-day point to where if it had never came, it would have been too late for me later to open up an item not received case or anything. This was not a very expensive card, but Mark Davis, former Cy Young Award winner in the National League back in 1989. For those of you that don't know, this guy at one time was the easily the most dominant relief pitcher for one season in baseball. He had some very good years in San Diego in 88 and 89 as Cy Young year. Before that, I remember this guy when he was a prospect coming up with Philadelphia because as a kid, I was a Phillies fan. Mike Schmidt was my favorite player, and I followed all their players. And this guy came up in the Philadelphia Phillies system. He was a high draft pick. Let me see. I think it was the first round. Yep, first round in January of 1979. And if you don't know what that means, in the years ago, baseball used to have two different phases of. They had draft in June, the regular June draft. They also had a secondary phase draft in January. And this guy was a first round pick by the Phillies. In 1979, he was, 1981. No, 1980. By the very next year, the year the Phillies won the World Series, he had already got a cup of coffee with Philadelphia. He was a very good prospect, but he never was really given much of a chance in Philadelphia. They were looking to win at the time. They were not looking at many young players. And so he got traded to San Francisco. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was in 84. Yeah, it was. And I can't remember now. I want to say it was involved Al Holland, who ended up being Philadelphia's. It might have been. Let me see if it was 84 trade. This don't say. Okay, I'm sorry, don't say. Yeah, I might be wrong. I'm thinking that the Giants got him based on an Al Holland trade, and that would have been in '83. And at any rate, Mark Davis, yeah, it says he was pitching for the Giants in '83. He actually had a very good year for the Giants in 1983, which would be what his rookie year would have been, I think. He made about 20 appearances as a starter, but then he had a horrible '84 and '85, and he ended up getting shifted to the bullpen. And then the Giants gave up on him. They were a bad team in the mid '80s, and they gave up on him, and they sent him to San Diego here. Uh, they actually, by the time they traded him to San Diego, they were starting to become a contender with Roger Craig as manager, and Davis was just a left-handed reliever at that time. And he goes to San Diego. He ends up becoming San Diego's closer by mid 1988, and he had a fantastic run where he finished out 88 strong, and then 1989 just had an awesome season. Best closer, probably, well, easily in the National League that year. It would be a toss up between him and Dennis Eckersley in the American League with the A's in 1989, but this guy was lights out, and he became a free agent after 1989, and he signed this at the time massive contract with the Kansas City Royals. And when I think about it now, if I remember right, it was for 4 years, but it was only for something like $12 million. I'm wanting to say, which is pocket change for what athletes make today. Guys make that in their first year or two of arbitration, especially if they're a very successful closer. And this guy was a free agent. But back in those days, you got to realize players, until they hit arbitration, they really weren't making very much money at all. They were getting paid decent for the time, but not like today. You know, Players complain about the league minimum being so bare minimum today, and it's several $100,000. Back in this guy's day when he came up, guys were making 60 some $1,000s a year as a league minimum, $70,000 a year. You didn't make big money in the 80s until you hit free agency. That was the truth. And teams still lowballed you as much as they could until you hit free agency. When you hit free agency, everybody, if you were a very good player, everybody was bidding on your services. And this guy, he chose to go to Kansas City. And sadly for him, he never had success in Kansas City. I don't know why. Kansas City had a pretty decent team. And, when he went there, they were heavy favors to win, favorites to contend in the West in 1990 against the Oakland A's. And this guy's signing as a free agent, a big part of that. They also signed that year Storm Davis, who was a pitcher they took and signed away from Oakland. So it was thought they weakened their competition in the American League West back then. Davis got off to a horrible start in 1990. He never recovered, and he ended up, finishing out that 4 years contract. He didn't stay with the Royals for a full 4 years. They gave up on him before that. He pitched so poorly in relief, though, for them that he lost his closer's job. And by 1991, they were actually giving him spot starts, trying him as a starter because they were trying to figure out, like, see if he had more success because they were having to pay him that money and they didn't want to cut him. But they finally gave up on him, and I think he did hang on for another year or so after the Royals gave up on him as just a lefty loogie, so to speak, brought into, but he never found success again. And if he had it to do over again, he'd probably say he would rather have pitched his entire career for San Diego because that was where he had the most success in his career by far. It was like this guy was lights out as a Padre, nobody could hit him, and then he went to Kansas City, couldn't get nobody out. And before he got to San Diego with the Giants, he had really struggled for a couple of years after a very good rookie year. And when I'm looking at the back of this, yeah, he was still struggling with the Giants in '87. He had an ERA of almost 5 when the Giants traded him to San Diego. And even then, his ERA immediately went down to 3.18. One of this guy's problems was, except for that great run from late '88 up through the end of 1989 when he won the Cy Young Award, he had control. He battled. A lot of left-handers have control issues historically. This guy was one of them. He battled control. He walked too many guys, and I don't care how good a pitcher you are. Even Nolan Ryan would tell you, as he struggled with control early in his career. If you don't give up but a hit now and then, if you walk a guy, like if you average a walk or more per inning, when you finally do give up a hit, there's a much higher chance you're going to give up runs. Because if you're letting guys get on base, for nothing, and because you're walking too many guys, when you're having a day where you don't have your best stuff, and somebody hit, instead of it being a solo homer, it's a 2 or 3 run homer. Instead of a guy getting a double, suddenly he got a double with a guy on first base that you walked and that guy scored. And that's what happens to guys that have poor control. But anyway, that was my addition, mail today. Nice addition for the 88 Tops project, and I'm glad to get that. And anyway, I just thought I'd do a quick video and share that with you. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back again soon with more videos.